Welcome back to our course, Music Theory for Preliminary Stage. This is Lesson 3. In Lesson 3, we will be learning about dotted notes and rests and explaining tied notes, single notes, and dotted notes, of course, and understanding rest and their values, including dotted minim and crotchet rest. For this level, we will limit ourselves to just these few things in this lesson. As you will see on the right hand side of this page, a picture of a minim and a dot, which gives you a dotted minim and some equivalent rest of that as well. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify the dotted notes and their rest. You will be able to calculate the number of beats of a dotted note, and you will be able to understand how ties are used to connect the heads of the notes and appropriately position the notes and the dotted notes and rest on the stave. And so, without further ado, let's get to the demo and learn a few practical things on notes, beats, values, and rest. In this time around, we're talking about dotted notes. Welcome to the demo session. In this demo session, we're talking about, obviously, dotted notes. So what is a dotted note? Let's talk about the dot beside the note first. A dot beside a note adds half of the beat of the note itself. It adds half of that beat of the note itself. It adds half of the beat of the note itself to the note. And this is what I mean. So we know that a minim is 2 beats. We also know that a crotchet is 1 beat. If you have forgotten this, please go back to the previous lesson, lesson 2, where we talked about notes, beats, and values. So we know that minim is 2 beats and crotchet is 1 beat. And now, what would be a dotted minim? Like we said, it adds half of the beat of the note itself, which will be 2, plus half of the beat, which is 2, which is 1. So half of 2 is 1, so that eventually everything will become 3. So a dotted minim is 3 beats. That's what that means. We do the same for a dotted crotchet. A dotted crotchet in this case would be 1, because we know that the beat for a crotchet is 1. And now half of 1 is half, so that this becomes 1.5. So a dotted crotchet is 1.5. The best way to explain this to you is to talk about time signature. However, time signature is not in the scope of this lesson, so we will not dive too much into time signatures right now. But let us see how these notes are placed and are calculated on a stave. For example, you have a stave like this, and in this stave we say that each bar is 4 beats. It's just an example. If we say that every bar here has 4 beats, it means that if we put a minim, here and we put 2 crotchets, this will be 4 bits. Why? This is 2, 1, and then 1, so that they all make 4. We can also do this by putting 4 of these crochets so that this will be 1, 1, 1, 1 to make 4 bits as well. However, we can go further to then add a dot beside a note. And what does that give us? So that when we add a note here, a dotted minim, which is already 3 bits, we know that the remaining number of bits for this bar can only be 1, because this is already 3. So if this whole bar should be 4, then we have just 1 crochet to close it, and so that this will be 3 plus 1, which is also 4, and on like that, and so on and so forth. Or can we also establish the rest signs of these notes? Because we said that the rest signs of the notes also carry the same number of beats as the notes. How do I mean? It means that we have a note, for example, if you have a stave this way, and again the number of beats in this bar is 4. If we do it this way and we have a dotted minim, we can then do something like this. And what is this? This is 3 bits, this is 1 bit, and again it will give us 4. How do we know that this symbol here is 1 bit? We know this because this is the symbol for the crochet rest, and the crochet rest also carries the same number of bits as the crochet note itself. Now let's talk about rest of the notes. Rest. The question is, why would we want rest symbols on a piece of music? The reason is quite simple. Sometimes as a composer, you want a period of silence in a piece of music, in your music, where the instruments don't play anything or the vocalists don't sing anything. You just want a period of silence. You can represent that silence by a rest symbol, and everyone understands who studies music that this is a rest symbol. And how long would that rest be observed? It's the same number of beats that the rest symbol carries, which is the same number of beats of the notes of that rest. I hope that makes sense. In order for this to make more sense, let's look at this in writing. If you have brief, our first note, which looks like that, is just a reminder. We've done this already in the previous lesson. You have brief that looks like that. The rest symbol looks like this, shaded, and that's it. So if you see this kind of rest symbol, it means that this rest symbol is for brief, and whatever the number of bits that brief is, in this case 8 bits, it means that the rest will be observed for 8 bits as well. And then you have semi-brief, which is just an egg. The symbol would be this way. We have minim, which is an egg with a stem. It will be this way. So if you find any rest symbol like this, you know it's minim, and you know it's 2 bits, and this is 4, and this is 8. You have crochet, which is a shaded egg in a stem. Crochet has this symbol, or you can represent it with this symbol, and that's the rest sign for crochet. Also 1 bit. So the rest sign carries 1 bit as well, the same number of bits as the note. You have quiver, which has a stem, egg, a flag, and this way you have. Now notice the difference between, don't get it confused, notice the difference between the crochet rest symbol and the quiver rest symbol. The crochet is this way, like an F, and the quiver is like a Y. The semi-quiver, which is egg, stem, 2 flags, we have 2 flags as well. The demi-semi-quiver, we have 3 flags. The rest symbol will also have 3 flags. And then hemi, demi, semi quiver, which is 4 flags. We also have 4 flags this way. So these are the rest signs or symbols of all these notes. You should concern yourself with these rest signs. This is half, this is 1/4, and this is 1/8, and this is 1/16. That way. So if you see any of these rest signs, you know what they represent now. The same beats as the notes, they also will be observed as rests. I hope that explains what we have here again. Now let's grow further on this. Let's go further on this. It means that if you have a rest sign this way and another rest sign this way, then you can have a note this way, and this bar will be complete. Why? This will be 1.5, this will be 1.5, and this will be 1. So this is 3 and this is 1, and again you have 4 bits, assuming that this bar should be 4 bits. That would be correct doing that. How about this? Two dots beside a note. What would that give you? What do you think that would be? Well, the answer is quite simple. We take half of the original note, half of the bits of the original note. Now in this case, our original note is this, because a dotted meaning is a note itself, and then we take half of that. So a dotted meaning is 3 bits. We've established that already at the top, right? Dotted meaning is 3 bits. Now we add half of 3, which is 1.5, so that eventually you have 4.5. So that 2 dots beside a meaning will give you 4.5. Usually you don't have notes like this on a stave with this kind of music, very popular, but you could have a situation like that, maybe just a theory of music, or you're trying to pass an exam, things like that. It's vital for you to know how to calculate this and never to panic. Now let's see a practical demonstration of what the dot beside a note truly means. I have a passage here, a passage of notes. I will play them for you and leave you to hear what they sound like. The first passage here sounds like this. The first bar First, I play the whole passage up to this bar and you hear what it sounds like. Okay, I just made a short composition, and if I wanted to put lyrics to that, I would say, what is music? Combination of the sound in a way that it is sweet to hear from us. That's brilliant, right? Okay, let's move on. So you've listened to that without any dotted notes. The set of notes you listen to are without any dotted notes. I'm just gonna remove this. Okay, gonna remove this one so that you have it this way. All right. Again, I play that so that you can listen. Okay. Now, let's listen to what the dotted notes, set of dotted notes sounds like. In the first bar here, this is again assume that in this bar you have 4 beats, because you can see in the first one you have 4 crotchets, which makes 4 beats, like I was trying to explain. Now here you have 1.5 plus half, making 2, and then 1 1, which is 4 beats essentially. But hear how that sounds. Can you spot the difference? Listen to the first reference again. And now this one. I hope you can tell the difference between the two bars. And now let's move on. The second bar on the first stave is what? It's like combination of the sound, just like that. Very simple. I've decided to add the dotted note to one of the quavers here, the 4th note to be precise. And now hear the difference. So that sounds like combination of that sound, something like that. You see, because you have 2 notes for the quaver, which is 1 beat, another 2 notes, in this case the whole thing representing 1 beat, that makes a huge difference when you put the dot beside that quaver. Let's move on. The third bar for the first stave sounds again like that. And now the third bar for the second stave, I've added the dotted note beside the 3rd note. So you have a dotted crotchet in this case. It's different from the first one. Here you have the first note being dotted. Here you have the 3rd note being dotted. Now you can tell the difference as you listen. It's like, what is music? And now here is in a way that, because you have that 3rd note will be a little bit stretched, because it's no longer 1 beat but 1.5. Just like you have this first one as well. The first note on this bar is 1.5, half, and then 1 1. Here you have 1 1, 1.5, and then half. Okay, and the last bar for reference again, it is sweet to hear from us. Okay, I decided to add dots beside 2 quaver notes, the first one and the 5th one. And now let's hear the difference in the 2 bars. Again, the reference. And now this one. It is sweet to hear from us. The first one is "It is sweet to hear from us." So you can tell that the dot beside the note really makes a lot of difference when you are writing a piece of music. Depending on the style that you write, depending on the number of notes that you want, depending on the number of beats that you want the notes to sound for, you have to account for the dots. I hope that's clear enough, and that will be all for this lesson. We'll see you in the next one.